Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Mission Employable podcast. My name is Ben Oldak. Episode 3 of our, so we haven't been here that long.
No, we haven't.
Of our on the road podcast episodes. As you can tell, my voice is still bad. It hasn't changed in the, hour and a half that we've spent between podcast episode recordings. Long story short, allergies got the better of me this week. I'm suffering. Not suffering, though, with me is Kathy Leggett,
right.
who has laughed in the face of pollen and is sounding great today. So, Kathy, thanks for, again, having my back and doing the heavy lifting on this episode.
You got it.
I'm going to spend the rest of my vocal power to introduce Kent Heronimus. He's the technical training manager at Interstates in Sioux Center, Iowa. And, man, I was just on the website, and you guys do a little bit of everything. So I don't even want to try to get into explaining what you guys do. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what Interstates is all about?
Sounds good. So, like you said, I am the training manager at Interstates. I've been there a little over 6 years. Before that, I'm actually a retired Air Force. I spent 24 years on active duty in the Air Force. The first 10 of those, I was an electrician.
Wow.
And then I worked for the last 14 years on active duty in the recruiting service.
Oh my gosh, the things you didn't know.
Exactly.
That's great stuff to know about you, Kent.
By the time by the time Interstates came around, I started with the recruiting team recruiting electricians. So everything just kind of fit into place, and it was kind of fun to actually do that.
So how did you end up here in Sioux? I mean, so we're in Sioux City, but your work is headquartered in Sioux Center.
Yep.
So I'm just curious.
It's home.
Oh.
So I actually grew up north of Sioux Center.
Okay.
And then being gone 30 plus years, I had the opportunity to come back, and it brought me right back home.
Wow. Well, yay for us. Lucky for us. We love that when it happens.
Yes.
So
And it was a great career in the military, and just awesome to be back home and be close to family and everybody else that I grew up with.
Yeah. And in a great position with your company now.
Yes.
So doing great things, which is what we're here to talk about. So so tell us, just give us the ballpark of all the work that Interstates does. You have a lot of different occupations, a lot of stuff going on.
Yep. So we serve clients in the industrial manufacturing and processing world. We started off as a electrical contractor 70 plus years ago. And then as new technologies came along, automation came into it. We've incorporated all of those different things into how we serve those clients. So we have a little over 1,600 employees. Close to 600 of those are still electricians.
Okay.
But the rest of them come in anything from programmers on the application programmers for automation through operational technology into the design side of the house, engineering, and all of the support services and everything else.
Yeah, that's a lot. It is. And right here in the Northwest corner of the state. So who knew? That's what I think sometimes. So one of the things that we know you for is your work with Registered Apprenticeship programs. Yep. And so we definitely want to talk about that. And I was thinking, and just as you kind of mentioned, the longstanding electrical work that your company has been in. So can you talk a little bit about when and why you guys started a Registered Apprenticeship program, and a little bit about how it works?
Yeah. So long before my time, back in 2002, so 22 years ago already, 23 years ago already, we started the electrical apprenticeship program. And back then, the leaders in the organization realized that we needed to have a career path for young men and women that are coming into the trades. So we wanted to have a good training program, and knew that the Registered Apprenticeship program just made sense. Also made sense from a licensing perspective, because as electricians, ultimate goal is to help them get their state license.
Yes.
Iowa, and I don't know if it was that way back in the day, but Iowa does require a Department of Labor Registered Apprenticeship program and 8,000 hours.
Yes.
So we had both of those. That's what got us started on that. As it continued to grow, we now have well over 200 people actively on that electrical one.
Okay, wow, yes.
Yeah, 216, 220 right in that area. But we also started realizing now that a lot of young men and women are coming into industry wanting to do something a little bit different than what they went to school for. Mm-hmm. And so we looked at other opportunities where we could have apprenticeships and make sense for that good training path. Mm-hmm. So in the last 2.5 years, we've added an industrial manufacturing technician one. We've added an applications programmer for our automation. We've added an operational technology technician one for our, obviously, operational technology and infrastructure security team. And our most recent one is a virtual design construction designer.
Wow.
So those are...
Yeah, so you're up to, I think, like about five different occupations. Okay, so this is a structure that's working for you.
Yes,
yeah,
it is working very well for us.
Yes, and so I had just noticed the industrial manufacturing one. I thought that was fairly new, so I was just curious. And I guess also what I would wonder is the type of individuals who might be good in these jobs. Can you give us like a picture of that or something? Yes. Because I think there's so many things that people don't even know that happen at your company, and so like if they're interested in this or this, you might have a fit for them.
Yep. So and we'll go with that industrial manufacturing one for just a minute because that's a really fun one, and that was the first one that I actually built from scratch within the organization. The focus on that one is actually for young men and women that are still in high school.
Okay.
So instead of being a typical 18-year-old high school grad, we wanted to get into high school students to help them realize there's opportunities in the trades. Mm-hmm. So 16-year-olds, junior in high school, we've worked with several of our local high schools around Sioux Center to identify, again, young men and women that have an interest of working with their hands, don't really know what they'd like to do. So this is a great opportunity for them to come into our manufacturing side of what we do and understand how conduit's bent, how prefabrication is done to build control panels and all of those different things. And so it's an 18-month program that a lot of them are starting middle of their junior year.
Okay.
And then by the time they graduate high school, they're graduating the apprenticeship program. They have a Department of Labor certificate, a high school diploma, and they've got a full-time job.
And they're ready to go. That's right. This is awesome. So I did not realize that. That is very cool. So now, did they take any prerequisites to get into it, or how? Just,
none. No. We actually, we had spent some time talking with our local high schools.
Okay.
And said we want to run this just like a typical job. So they're going to go through. They'll have to fill out an application, which means they have to put a resume together.
Yes.
They're going to go through and do an interview.
Yep.
And all of those different little pieces. So we were interviewing people and finding the ones that truly did have a desire to do some sort of trade.
Okay.
That also wanted to get to work and have that career path set up now.
Yeah.
You know, this program's great for those individuals. For somebody that loves sports and wants to go do all of that every time. Yep. Not the best route for them. So we were looking for a very unique type of individual.
Yeah, and have you been able to find that?
Yes.
Wonderful.
So this is our second year, so we're actually doing this in kind of cohorts of it. So our first year, we had our first one graduated probably 2 months ago.
Okay.
A little bit of a unique one. He actually came in his senior year of high school. So then he was able to graduate and work full time all summer, all the way through the fall, and got all of the required technical instruction and all the hours and competencies.
Yeah.
So he was able to go do that very quickly. The second one will graduate shortly after graduation this year.
Okay.
We just started 3 brand new ones in January.
Okay.
And so now they're taking classes with NCC over in Sheldon.
Okay.
And working in our shop. So they're doing usually right around 10 to 15 hours a week. Okay. In addition to the RTI that they're doing over at NCC.
And the 10 to 15 hours a week that they're working, they're getting paid.
Yes, they're getting paid to take the RTI
and
also.
Because I want to point that out too. That's part of this program is so they're earning wages and they're getting paid to take their training.
Correct.
That's which is amazing. So they're not having to go into any debt for additional classes, and they have not yet graduated from high school. They're on this really cool path.
Yep.
So
one of the it's always one of the key things you hear about the apprenticeship is you earn while you learn.
Right, which is such a great thing. One thing I want to point out about this, because this is a conversation that we have in different areas, and I feel like this program is really hitting it in a really great way, is we really want to we want everybody to have a work-based learning experience, because
Right.
it's you just learn things,
Yes.
it's so valuable for so many reasons. But we also really want to work to identify the kids in high school who are looking to go into the workforce. And there's a significant number of them.
There are.
And this is a really great way of doing that and getting with those who are ready to take training now and earn some money and have their career have a step into that career path right when they graduate.
Yep.
And so I think that's really I would encourage more employers to think about that.
Yes.
Because there is a big, at least from our data, we know that about 40% of Iowa high school kids are not going on to directly to a post-secondary traditional post-secondary education.
Right.
So that's a big percent, and we want and I think we have a pretty good opportunity to keep them in our communities if
Very
we can
true.
get them hooked up with these great opportunities.
Yes.
So
and we looked at a lot of that when we're doing our Iowa Plains work. A lot of our employers, especially out in this region, we're always looking at there's either not enough qualified applicants or there's not enough applicants, period.
Right.
And so looking at the apprenticeship program or looking at the apprenticeship route gives all of those employers the opportunity to identify individuals that are coming into that have an interest in there, and we can train and develop them to our standards. So it makes it so nice just to have a great workforce that we're starting really with just young men and women that are interested and being able to build it from there. No bad habits, no nothing.
Yeah.
We're able to go through and help them just grow an amazing career.
Yes.
Speaking of helping people grow, one of the things that we love to see is companies or industries start up their own programs, like from the ground up. What kind of words of wisdom can you offer some of these other programs or companies that might consider starting an apprenticeship program based on the experiences that you've had?
Very good lessons learned on this one. And I think probably the biggest piece is utilize the resources that are there. One of the first ones that we set up, I didn't realize all of the stuff that back then Iowa Education and all of those could actually help with. So it was a lot of lifting on our own. And then once we realized what Iowa Office of Apprenticeship could do, started working with them, and all of the heavy lifting just got really taken on by them. They sat down, helped us talk through what did we need, all the little pieces, and they were able to put that whole program together. And time-wise, first one obviously took a little bit longer, but the time we were done, it was like a month and a half from the time we started. Because by the time we started to the time we were done, you could have the apprenticeship done. There's legwork on the front side of that. Within the organization, what are we truly looking for? Identifying all the different little pieces of that. But yeah, it is not a hard process. So my advice to everybody is look into it. And even look into it with some of the local schools.
Yes.
Because that is a great opportunity there's local junior colleges, trade schools, even high schools that are looking at apprenticeship programs as a way to get that work-based learning.
Yes.
And for industry to be able to partner with Iowa Workforce, education, and that industry side is just going to make it so much easier.
Yes, it is. And the schools are really being encouraged to increase work-based learning, and with that we need employers, right? Because that's the value of it, is to get that employer partnership. So good opportunity.
It is.
And a quick note, if you want to get in touch with the Iowa Office of Apprenticeship, you can find their information on our website, workforce.iowa.gov.
Yes, definitely. So I do, and just, you may have mentioned a little bit of this, but I kind of want to go back and ask you about recruiting their participants, especially the ones in this we can talk about both the high school ones. So do you connect with the counselors? How are you recruiting participants?
Yes. So what we did, we actually connected with the counselors and the administration at the schools for two reasons. One, before we even set the program up, we knew to get enough hours in there to make it worthwhile, they would have to get released from school a little bit early.
Yes.
So we wanted to make sure that the schools were available, open to that idea.
Okay.
If they weren't, we weren't even going to start the program.
Yep.
They were, so that's why we went through that way. Every time, so every fall, we're actually getting with all the counselors and saying, hey, we are going to start the program. We're looking at 5 or 6 people in this group, and we'll let you know, and we'll keep following up. So they're the ones that are actually bringing those students to us during the conversations that they're having.
Great.
So it has been, it's been a great way to actually go through and recruit that pipeline.
And then how about with some of your other registered apprenticeships? Is it mainly internal, and how do the people, other adults, maybe they're not in high school, but how do they get in?
Well, and so when we set up all of the other 3 that we have set up, our primary focus was on a couple of different populations. One is military. Okay. So obviously being retired military myself, I was going to go find ways that we could help veterans. Yes. So all of our apprenticeship programs, except for the manufacturing one, are also VA registered.
Very good.
That way, any of those veterans that wanted to use GI Bill benefits are able to do so in our apprenticeship programs.
That's fantastic.
So military being one, career changers are the other one. So there are a lot of people in this time, this generation, all of whatever you want to call it, that do not have a linear career path as we would think of it before.
Yes.
They have all these little curves in there. So we wanted to have opportunities within our organization for somebody that may have started off in the electrical world and said, hey, I love doing the electrical work, but I just don't like being out in the field anymore. I've got a family. I want to try something different. Well, that's where that VDC one, that virtual design construction, can come right off that. Maybe they were into something else and they wanted to get into programming on automation. So it was those career changers is that second piece.
That's cool.
And then the third one is just high school graduates or somebody that took a degree, went to get either a college degree, and realized that it's not what they thought it, or they can't find a job in it where they want to be.
Wow, that's cool. I love that too. The populations you're targeting, I think that is really cool. And how long? Tell us. You mentioned 18 months for the one. How about your other ones? How long are they? Like, what's the different ranges?
Yeah. So out of all 5 of them, the electrical one is actually time-based. So that is 4 years, 8,000 hours, just to align with all of those other ones. The applications programmer is a competency-based apprenticeship program. Estimated time is roughly 12 months.
Okay.
So it is a lot of required technical instruction right on the front side of that, again with NCC.
Okay.
And then a lot of hands-on, just getting in and going through all of that stuff.
Okay.
Same with the operational technology is a 12-month.
Okay.
VDC is going to be 4 years. And because we need those designers to understand all of the electrical, a lot of that required technical instruction is the same NCCER courses that we're using for our electricians.
Very cool.
They have to understand the National Electric Code. They have to understand all of that. There's field aspects to it where they're going to be working out on job sites and installing conduit and running all of these different equipment out there, or all of the different routes for cable tray, duct, all of that, but they have to understand that for the constructability of the design.
So it's curious if but that is really that's cool how you've done it. So they have an interest in that, but it's a different career field, which is really cool. Yeah. And then could you have electricians who have already gone through that apprenticeship program, and then would it be a little bit shorter for them? Okay, that's
then it'll focus on all the Revit software and everything else that we do for the designer, because they've got all of the other RTI done and they've got all of the understanding.
Getting some of these folks in here, is just part of the battle, but then the retention aspect is something that is the next is kind of the next piece of it, right?
Yes.
What do you guys do in terms of career advancement to encourage folks to stay and grow with the company?
Yep. And that's a great question. That's one of the things I really believe that we do very well at Interstates. Whenever somebody comes into the organization, they're actually going to have a career coach. And that career coach is spending time with them at least quarterly, talking about where they're at, what are they trying to accomplish, where do they want to be, and helping them make sure that they have the knowledge, skills, and ability to get to that next level. Our instructors for our electrical apprenticeship program, our instructors are the primary career counselors, because every time they come in, every 6 months they're coming in for classes. So they're having a conversation about how's it going out in the field, what can we help you with, all of those different little pieces to make sure they make it through that program as best they possibly can, because ultimately we want them to be able to get their license.
Right.
But that happens for everybody across the organization. Is that career coach is just there to make sure that you can have a solid career with Interstates. And if it takes that non-linear route, or even if it's in line, but it's just different. So we have a national traveling team. Our projects, because our projects are not all in Northwest Iowa.
Right.
So of that 1,600 employees, we have probably 300 of them in Sioux Center area.
Okay.
And then we have 14 other offices from central Minnesota all the way down to Oklahoma, from Colorado out to Ohio.
Yeah.
And then we have a traveling team that goes wherever our clients need us.
Yeah.
So we have young men and women that are out on the field, and they start a family, kids get ready to start going to school, they want to come off the road.
Yeah.
So part of that career conversation can be, hey, in 2 years or so, I would like to settle down and get into, the regional office in Sioux Center, or I'd like to go to Brainerd, Minnesota, wherever that may be.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's how we make sure we take care of that career piece, and they can actually have an entire career, and it's not your typical construction company where you work a project, you get laid off, you go find a new job. We want them to be with us for as long as they want to be.
Yeah.
And as long as they're good.
Are you thinking about any other apprenticeship occupations? I'm just curious. You don't have to give us any trade secrets, but I'm just, you've had real success with them. And I feel like it gives a good, to that retention piece, if you have somebody who kind of wants to change, career, you have a path that they can do. And they can still work and earn money, right? They don't have to step out and go back to school.
So we are looking at a couple of different opportunities. One of them would be developing a kind of an internal apprenticeship program. So not something that may be registered, because certain fields like electrical estimating, there is not a registered apprenticeship program for estimating. So we're looking at taking the apprenticeship model and creating one internally, so they can see what a career path looks like, what the training looks like for that entire program. It just won't be registered with them. So we're looking at different options in that. We've also found that a lot of young men and women coming into the trades are Spanish speakers. So we have a Spanish trainer, Spanish instructor on board. So we're looking at even an apprenticeship program that may be in Spanish for those individuals to help them work through all of the knowledge, skills, and ability they need to get to the point where they can take a journeyman's test.
Exactly. No, that's critical. That's and so so that's really cool. And the other thing is, I'm happy that you talked about the other apprenticeship, because from our perspective, the model is what works, whether it's registered or not. You have to, as an employer, decide and figure out, which we can help with, what's the best path and what makes most sense for you. And so the point, just to your point, is it doesn't have to be a registered through the Iowa Office of Apprenticeship, but it is, whether it is or not, it's worth exploring. So great point. Okay, so now my path has crossed yours in a few different ways, which has been so great for me always. And so you're actively involved in a lot of things, Kent. And one of the things most recently where our paths have crossed is with the Iowa Plains Local Workforce Committee. The whole western side of the state is a workforce area, which there's a lot of information in that itself there. But basically, it has formed, I think it's the whole 40 counties or something. And you are a member of the committee that is oversight for that 40 county workforce area. And so I wanted to just give you a chance to talk about that a little bit, or share, what the workforce area, what is the workforce area? Why does it even, matter? Maybe people, what do people need to know? And maybe what are some of the things that the area is trying to do?
Well, and let me just start at the back of that,
yes.
and we'll work the other way,
yes.
and hopefully get through all of it.
Yes.
What got me interested in being on that committee and helping out is our conversation earlier about kind of those three legs of this success piece is Iowa workforce, industry, and education. And this was a way for us to bring all three of those together into a committee. As an industry in Iowa, there was a lot of things I did not know that Iowa Workforce did. And I think that was a huge miss. There's a lot of things that happen in education setting that we didn't know about in industry, and that's a miss. So being able to be on that committee and bring education, workforce, and industry together, I think is the key. And we've got to be able to get where awareness is out there.
Yeah.
We have to make sure one of the goals that we set forth was that any program we have, there's visibility to it. It's easy to utilize so that we have clients that come in and get the knowledge, the training, and everything they need. But we've got industry right on the other side of it that's working with them to get that workforce right from there. So it's just another pipeline that can be there.
Yeah.
So very important piece of, I think, what we're trying to accomplish with that committee. And for all of the industry partners that are out there right now, if you haven't been talking to your Iowa workforce centers, get involved, get over there, find out what's going on. There are so many different programs that you can utilize to help you build that pipeline of candidates into your organization.
Yes, exactly. And one of the ones that we talk about is just to mention here so that we can, share out awareness is that we do have programs where maybe we have some folks in the community who have been out of work for a while. Maybe they got laid off. We do have some layoffs happening. They maybe have some barriers, but we're working with them at our local Iowa Works centers, and we really want work experiences for them, maybe in a different field or maybe just some basics, and we can offset some of the costs of that if we have employers who can partner with us. And so that's one of the things too that we're working on. Right. So so that connection is so vital, and just getting the people together from all of those different areas, I think is what we've got to be able to focus on, and that'll make all of the industry better. That'll make the programs better, and that'll get more people hearing about what we do. Yes. Next thing you know, we become the model of success for everybody else to follow. And that's exactly what we want. So So anyway, I'm really glad that you're part of that committee and involved in so many things. Yeah. So I think Iowa's better for it. We're happy that you're back here, Kent, and with Interstates, and I guess the last question I have is since we are on the road, and I'm so happy that we're getting out of Des Moines and getting to talk with some folks around the state, is what is the best part for you about working at Interstates and up here in the northwest area of the state? There's so many different pieces that are good. I think what got me, that probably keeps me most passionate about working for Interstates, is just the overall belief of the organization. And that belief goes into providing opportunities for our people. That is one of the big things that we always focus on, is what can we do to make sure our people are taken care of. And if that's a new career path, if that's a pivot in their current career path into something that fits them so much better, we look for ways that we can provide opportunities for the people. Second one is we always want to make a difference for our clients and our communities. Coming from a military background, community service is huge. So anytime that we can get out there and help the communities that we live in, that we work in, is something that is very enjoyable for me, and just to see how we can make a difference. And then finally, to pursue a better way. And everything that we've done in the construction industry, everything we're doing at Interstates, is trying to make things better. So by living out those three key areas of the organization, that's what keeps me motivated. That's what keeps me engaged, and quite honestly, that's what keeps me busier than I probably ever need to be. Yeah, exactly. That's so great. Well, I love that that you were able to come on and talk about Interstates and the great things that the company is doing, and just we can showcase and Interstates is one. There are so many great employers and opportunities everywhere in our state. We want people to stay here. We want you to get a career in your community, and there's a lot going on to help you do that. So thanks so much for joining us today, Kent. Well, thank you all for having me.